Hello, welcome to For Book Lovers Only, where we interview great authors and talk about some amazing books. My name is Rob Brown, your host and chief book lover. Today, we have a very special guest. He is a photographer and an author, and he's written a book called Traces, An Autistic Pathway to Creative Expression. He has a very unique view of the world, and he's decided to stop by and visit us today. His name is Stephen McAllister. Stephen, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Well, thanks for having me along to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I know you're a pretty busy guy because you do photography, yes?
Well, yes. I mean, I had a very busy schedule this week.
Now, what type of a photographer are you?
I'd say it'd be more of a freelance photography job. Basically, I go all over the places, like private events or fundraisers or big festivals or whatnot. Like, I think it was this past weekend, I went to a Rag-Eye festival in Mount Airy.
Okay.
I gotta tell you, the views there are absolutely beautiful. Great place to go to for a vacation.
What type of views were there?
Oh, it was like hills and trees as far as the eye can see. There were upon rows of people just hanging around, having a picnic, enjoying the band and whatnot.
So you photograph, people, nature. Is that kind of like your forte, or?
Yeah, it's more of a forte, more or less. I also like sometimes to do nature photography and also some landscape photography. And every now and then I experiment with a few things in Adobe Photoshop to find new creative things.
Ah, I see. And how did you get into photography?
Photography, let's see. I actually started to get into it when I was in Amarillo Community College, where I met this person by the name of Mr. Matthew Moore, and he was probably one of the best teachers I've ever had. Like, he really showed me the details on what goes into photography, how critical certain things are, like getting the right contrast, getting the right moment of that instant right there. And ever since then, I started going into photography. So I got my Associate of Fine Arts degree in photography at ACC. Then a couple years later, I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree at UMBC with cum laude.
Oh, excellent. Well, congratulations.
Why, thank you.
So with regards to photography and the type of pictures that you've taken, I imagine that the more experience that you have in photography, the better your photos look?
Oh, absolutely. Like, a lot of people are thinking, oh, you need this huge lens that goes 1,000 meters away, or this huge flash that looks like almost the size of your head. But in all honesty, it doesn't really matter what photo equipment you have. It's a matter of what you can do with it. It's all a matter of trial and error, taking chances, making mistakes, and learning from it.
I see. So are you somewhat critical of the photographs that other people take because this is like your profession, or?
Yes, especially when people do selfies. Photography, good photography, is about thinking it through, capturing the right moment, not just saying a random moment, oh, I gotta take a picture.
So you're not a selfies fan, and you don't take selfies yourself?
I only do selfies like when I absolutely need to, like if I really want to capture a moment and for whatever reason I don't have my camera with me.
Okay. And how long have you been doing photography for?
I've been doing it for around 2 or 3 years now.
Oh, I see. And what exactly do you want to do with your photography career? I mean, do you want to focus in a particular area, or?
It's an interesting question because a lot of people would probably go to wedding photography or landscape photography or whatnot, but I want to use my photography in a way that not many people have done before. After all, why bother competing with everyone else when you can just be the first to do something your own? Which kind of leads to the book in question that I made recently. But before I get into that, I have a question to ask.
Sure.
Do you know about something called autism, or know someone who actually has autism?
Yes, I know a little bit about it.
Oh, that's good to know. Well, as you may know, a lot more people are being born with autism during these recent years, and thus there's a lot more awareness about it going on. Now, there are some online facts that you could look up online, or certain medical doctors or medical experts you could talk to about it. But the question I always thought of was, wouldn't it be best to talk to someone who actually has autism? Someone who's actually lived through it and know what it's like?
That's an excellent point. I agree. Yes, it would be good.
Like me?
So you have autism?
Yes, actually. It's kind of a funny story. I kind of noticed something was strange around like at the age of 5. I noticed that while I was in a special ed class, I didn't really behave the same as everyone else. So one day I asked Mom and I asked her, why am I so different from everyone else? I thought it was the same. And that's when she told me that I had autism. And how she described it was more of a special gift. Back then I didn't know it was a disability. It was just basically, or it is basically, just a little rewiring of the brain here or there. It's nothing too drastic or world devastating.
I see. I see. And being autistic, you have kind of a unique perspective of the world around you, yes?
Yeah, I'd like to think that since I have a different way of experiencing things than others, I tend to look at things differently. Like some people may see like a giant tree and I may notice that little ladybug on that little leaf right there. And I've always been thankful for having autism because of that unique perspective, because of the fact that I get to see things in a way that other people probably wouldn't even think about viewing it. It kind of makes my way kind of special. It helps stand out from the rest.
I see. And being autistic, and it sounds like you have a unique perspective. You notice things that maybe other people don't. I imagine that you had mentioned earlier it's a disability, but it might be an advantage for you in being a photographer because you can spot things that maybe other photographers would not.
Well, that is sort of true. I mean, while autism has its advantages and whatnot, it also has its challenges, per se.
Right.
Like, there are some times where autistic people or people like me have a hard time reading body language or whatnot, and often sometimes hard time reading or keeping eye contact, hence why my eyes are going all over the place for some strange reason. I mean, and there's also the social skills barrier, which is basically the biggest one of them all. Like, I may be able to talk normally like you and all the other people, but that's because I had years of speech therapy and a lot of exposure in the real world, a lot of, like I said, trial and error. And for someone with autism, getting that outside experience is absolutely essential. Like, you could go to over hundreds of classes or over dozens of schools and learn everything you could, but it won't mean anything unless you know how to interact with the real world.
Exactly. Now, do you have friends or family members who are also autistic?
Ugh, I could probably count more than how many fingers I have in my hands. It's like almost every other friend I know either has some form of autism, like ADHD, ADD, or Asperger's syndrome, like I do. Other people are just straight up crazy. Let's just put it that way.
So tell us a little bit about the different forms of autism.
The different forms of autism, it's kind of like a spectrum, if you will. Like, there's very high functioning and then there's the very low functioning. Asperger's syndrome is on the very high functioning level. It's like at the point where you probably won't even notice it unless that person tells you about it.
I see.
As you go lower down the spectrum, you may notice a few more things here and there, but the important thing to understand is just because some person may have some lower form of autism, that doesn't exactly mean that they can't cope with normal society just because they don't have that higher up spectrum. It just means they have a bit more challenges than others and most likely different ways of communicating rather than just talking or whatnot.
Intriguing. And you're more higher functioning, yes?
Yes, but that doesn't mean I get a free pass or whatnot. Like I said, it took a lot of speech therapy and a lot of experience to get to the point where I am now.
Exactly, I see. And you actually wrote a book about autism, yes?
Oh, yes, actually. Oh, look at that. It's right there.
It's called Traces. Tell us a little bit about Traces.
It's kind of a funny story because originally Traces started out as another class project from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I was taking a digital alternatives class under Mr. Chris Paraguay. Absolutely love that teacher, and everyone who takes the class loves him too. And originally it was about making a certain paintwork, if you will, then scanning it in a special way to a computer where you can add certain art designs on it via Photoshop, like the paint tool or the paste tool or whatnot. And then kind of be creative with making collages, if you will, then printing them out and creating your book by hand rather than just having it produced elsewhere. Originally, I wanted to like think outside the box. I was thinking some kind of nature trail or whatnot. Maybe you have the some twigs on the cover of the book, so that way when people read it, they can. It's like they're getting lost in the woods or something. Or kind of like how the regular businessman gets lost in his Sunday paper. Or is it Saturday paper? I don't know.
They print papers both days. So.
I don't know. But, yeah, originally it was just an art project, but a couple things happened a while later that really inspired me to make it into an actual professional work. The first thing was, it was probably October a few years ago, when I went to an event to meet a book cover artist by the name of Frank Maury, and he described books as the ultimate culmination of art, as they have a variety of elements in there that make it whole. Like there's the illustrations in the pages, the literature, the poetry, the type of book binding, the book covers. There's so many elements that go into this beautiful composition.
Right.
Whereas, like, if you look at one picture and like, oh, pretty. But with a book, it's like a continuous motion. Like, you're going through like a journey, if you will, not knowing where it will end or how it will end.
That's a remarkable description of a book. I like that.
Yeah. And the other thing was, while I was working with the photography group I'm with, the Umbrella Syndicate, hence why I get to go to all these nice places. Ha ha. When I got to the Umbrella Syndicate, I learned about a group they have along the side called Perfect Publishing, and they help new and upcoming authors help publish their books and get the word out there to other people, you know, kind of make a name of their own out there. So when I heard about that, I figured, okay, I have this art book I made a while back. Wouldn't I be able to give it something more use, like some meaning or something? So I thought long and hard about it, and I figured, oh, wait a minute. There we go.
That was a good snap.
Yeah, I had a hard time learning this. That was another thing. I couldn't learn how to snap until I was in high school. But I'm getting sidetracked. But anyway, so when I realized what I wanted to do, it kind of inspired me to make a more professional version of the book and give it purpose rather than just looking pretty. Give it a message to convey and something about my personal experience. And thus, Traces was born.
Okay. And how long did it take you to write the book from start to finish?
Start to finish. Definitely took several months because there was the concept of the idea. Like, I already had the book design made. I just had to, like, add the words to it, give it meaning. But rather than just make it like a long novel or whatnot, I wanted to make it like a short poetry, if you will. Oh. Something nice and simple that everyone can get into, that even kids could get into.
Right.
I wanted to target both kids and adults, or mainly kids, because what I remember a while back was the reason Disney is so successful the way they are now is because of the fact they target kids. And throughout the years, those kids grow up to be adults, and they remember growing up with Disney, and they introduce their kids to Disney, and that's how they were able to grow. So I figured if you target the kids, you leave a more lasting impression on those. So I wanted to make like a short story, nice, simple, short to the point, but gives a strong message, rather than just filling a novel with long books that kids would just get sick of, then a few seconds later.
I see. And the book is relatively short with regards to word count and how many pages, correct?
That's correct. It's only about like a few lines per page, but again, it keeps it nice, simple, straight to the point, hopefully not getting too lost in the book.
Exactly. And I see you brought an extra copy with you today. Would you mind reading it for us?
I did? Oh, yeah, I did. Look at that. Yeah, sure, why not? All right, let me just get to the page. There we go. All right. It's a force of habit. Anyway, when I think about the world, I imagine. When I view the world, I dream. Dreams of wonder, dreams of abstraction, dreams of horror, dreams of agony. Some dreams are peaceful, where ignorance is bliss. Some dreams are painful, where knowledge brings despair. Some dreams get lost, scattered in the wind. Some dreams get caught, snagged upon a hope. No matter what life may bring, I keep nurturing these dreams until one day they become reality.
That's excellent. It's short and to the point. I like it.
Exactly, and the words are only half the point. If you look real carefully, I'll probably see if I can show it as best I can, there's actually some of the visual work that I talked about earlier.
Oh, yes. Very interesting. I like that.
And you may notice that a lot of these things involve Native American symbols, and some people may ask, Stephen, why did you choose Native American symbols? Well, there's a certain item that they have called a dream catcher, and you may notice it kind of in the background.
Right. I've heard about dream catchers.
Basically, the idea was they helped capture bad dreams and help preserve good dreams. And some people may be thinking, okay, why a dream catcher? Why daydreaming in the first place? Well, one of the big things about my personal experience about living with autism was I tend to daydream a lot. And I know a few other of my autistic friends tend to daydream too. Like we go off into our own world and imagine a whole lot of other things and whatnot. But what a lot of people don't understand or often miss is that just because we're daydreaming and whatnot doesn't mean we're totally disconnected from the real world or unaware of what's going on around us.
I see.
A lot of times it's our way of brainstorming, you know, thinking about all the other possibilities before picking which one is the best case scenario, trying to figure out how to get past this problem, what's the solution and whatnot, how could things have been handled better and whatnot.
I see. And for those who are watching who may have autistic friends, autistic family members, or those who are actually autistic watching the show, what type of advice would you give them when dealing with someone who has autism?
Let's see. That would depend entirely on who's asking. If it was a parent who has a kid with autism, a lot of it's going to be trial and error, but the one thing I must emphasize on, and sorry if I had to look around or break the fourth wall or whatnot, do not homeschool your kids ever. It is the worst thing you could do, or one of the worst things you could do. They need the outdoor experience. They need to get out there and see what there is to see, enjoy what there is to enjoy.
Great.
And it's how I'm able to grow, and it's how other successful autistic people are able to grow, and you just got to get out there. Now, if it was a friend or whatnot, like I know a couple friends who recently found out they had autism, like they didn't know until a couple years ago. Basically, what I would say then is just because you have autism or some other mental disability or mental disorder, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. That doesn't mean, oh no, this horrible thing, I got nothing to live for anymore. No, it just means you have a little something extra with you that you would have to live with, and you got to make the most of it.
Great, great. Now we're almost out of time. For our
Oh,
book
we are?
lovers, yeah, I know it went quick.
Aw,
didn't
but
it?
I got 30 other things
I
to
know.
say.
For the next interview. So for those who want to learn more about you and about your books, do you have a website or contact information they can reach out to?
Actually, I have both of those. Let's see. The best email address to reach me would be Stephen@theUmbrellaSyndicate.com. It's probably into some sort of text or whatnot. And there's also the website that I have that people can look up at. It's socalsteve.wix.com/Steven dash, no, scratch that. socalsteve.wix.com/autism-art-books. Man,
That's a mouthful.
That's embarrassing. I created my own website, yet I don't even know what the name of the website is.
Don't worry.
What's wrong with me?
Our viewers will know. Steven, thank you so much. We really appreciate you stopping by, and we hope to see you again soon.
Well, I hope to be here again soon. Thanks for
Absolutely.
having me here.
And thank you for tuning in to For Book Lovers Only. Please stop by and visit us at www.forbookloversonly.com. You can also join the village at www.villageconnector.com. My name is Rob Brown, your host and chief book lover. We hope to see you again, and remember, if you love books, we have a home for you. Take care.